Hi guys, today we're going to learn about parent functions. So parent functions just means like a function in its most basic form. So it's a function before anything has happened to it. Like for example, think of a base model car. All the base model cars of a certain type are the same, but then they can start adding different things to it. And that's kind of the same thing as a parent function. Let's go ahead and look at the types of functions. So this is a linear function, and a linear function is going to have a straight line. The most basic form of a parent function that is linear is f of x equals x. Now if I wanted to take and add or multiply things to it, so maybe I wanted to say f of x equals x plus 5, that's still a linear function, but now we have plus 5. So see how this one's the most basic, but then this one is in the same family. F of x equals 2/3 x minus 2, also a linear function here because x is to the first power. So make sure you write down that a linear function, the most basic linear function is f of x equals x, and then write down that the graph of a linear function is a straight line. Okay, maybe just a quick sketch of that graph. Quadratic functions, the most basic one is f of x equals x squared. The shape is this parabola. This is called a parabola. It's kind of got that U shape. So I might have other functions in the same family that look like x squared plus 3 or something, or it might be 2 times x squared minus 5. The x squared here is the important part. Some of these actually even have something inside parentheses before x gets squared, but all of these are quadratic because ultimately x is squared, and they're all going to have this shape that looks like that U shape. It's called a parabola. X to the third has this shape. These are going to continue in both directions. It's symmetrical about the origin. The basic function is f of x equals x cubed. But again, we could add or subtract or multiply to this, and we will still have functions in the same family. So here's the parent function, and then these are all in the same family because they have x cubed. Okay, so if we see an x cubed in there, then we know it's going to be in this family. So the important part here is that x is cubed. Okay. Our next type of function is a square root function. So on square root functions, it starts at the origin and just heads off to the right. It's sort of like a little half rainbow thing. This is the most basic parent function, f of x equals the square root of x. We could have numbers multiplied out front. We could have square root of x. We could have number subtracted or added to x underneath the square root. We could have both. We could have one on the inside and one outside of the square root. But if we see a square root over x, then we know that this is in the family of functions of f of x equals square root of x. And all of their graphs are going to have a shape similar to this. Sometimes they'll move up or over. Sometimes they'll even be flipped the other way. But if it has that basic shape, we will know it's a square root function. Cube root function looks like this. F of x equals the cube root of x. Notice there's a little 3 there in the v. If it's a cube root function, it's going to look something like that. It could have a number out front. It could have a number outside, like minus 5 out here. It could be 1/2 times the cube root of x plus 3, with the plus 3 on the inside. It can move around, it can be moved up, it could move down, it could be moved over, it could be wider or skinnier, but either way, it's all the same shape, so those will all be in the family of cube root functions. Absolute value functions, f of x equals the absolute value of x, is always going to be this V shape. It could be f of x equals the absolute value of x plus 2. It could be f of x equals 2 times the absolute value of x plus 1. minus 3. Anything that has absolute value in with x inside the absolute value is going to have this basic shape. Again, it can move up and down, right and left. So it could be moved in, and it could be, or moved up or down. It could be skinnier, it could be wider. But the basic shape is going to be a V shape. Okay. And then we have exponential. Exponential hugs the x-axis and then takes off and grows quickly. The most basic is a to the x, so a is a base number and it's raised to the exponent of x. So an example might be f of x equals 3 to the x power. These ones are a little bit different in the fact that this base number can be all sorts of different numbers. It could be a negative 2 to the x. It could be any base number raised to the power of x. It could be 1.5 raised to the x. Those are all parent exponential functions. If we start to add things up onto x or outside out here like plus 5 or minus 7, those are going to transform it, which moves it up or down or left or right. And we'll learn more about which ones do which, but I just want you to know if it has that same basic shape where this side is kind of hugging a horizontal line and then it heads up, that's going to be an exponential function. They can get flipped as well, so it looks something like that. But yeah, that's exponential. That might be our last one. So we have square root functions. Remember the most basic one is just square root of x. We have cube root, which is just cube root of x. Quadratic would be x squared. Cubic is x cubed. Linear is just x to the first power. Exponential is a base number raised to the power of x. And absolute value is the absolute value of x. So these are the parent functions. Again, then they can be added to, subtracted from, they can have things multiplied by them, and they can be reflected. Those are all in the same family as long as you see a square root of x or a cube root of x or an x squared somewhere in the equation. Remember, square root is kind of shaped like a little rainbow. Cube root is shaped not like that really. It changes. It goes up and down. Quadratic looks like a U shape. Cubic looks like this. Linear is a straight line. Exponential is hugging a horizontal and then grows quickly. And absolute value is a V. So today you're just going to be looking at some functions to determine what their parent function is. So on your worksheet, the first thing it's asking you is what's the parent function or the most basic function. So you're going to write one of these names. The second section is asking you to match an equation to a graph and then to their name that it's called. So just be looking for the shape to match with the equation with like a square root will match to one that has a rainbow shape. And you'll write that the name is square root, for example. So go ahead and give it a try. If you have questions, please let me know. And you can always log into Zoom today and get some help if you need it. So have a great day, guys.